Over the past 3+ decades, the median age in Ontario has risen by more than 9 years to over 40 years old, 40.6 to be exact. Much of that is because we're living longer, which is good, but it also poses some real issues for providing the best health care, particularly for medical staff specializing in senior care. Mary Baxter heads up our Southwest Ontario Hub, and she's been looking into this. She joins us now on the line from our studio at Western University in London. Welcome to the show, Mary.
Thanks, Jayan. It's good to be here.
Now, according to an article you published this week, there are 145 full-time geriatricians in the province. How does that number compare to what's actually needed?
Well, we have about half of the geriatricians that are actually needed in this province. So that's a big lack.
It sounds like a simple question, but what's causing the shortage?
There's a couple of things that are going on. One is that geriatricians, just to back up a little bit to explain what they do, as you said, they're involved in senior care. I think of a geriatrician as being something like a pediatrician, only for older people. So as we mentioned, there's only about half of what we need in the province. And it's not, the reason why is that they're having trouble attracting people to actually take up the specialization. That's one of the reasons. So it's not the sexiest of the specializations in medicine, when you can consider it to something like being a cardiologist, for instance, or being a surgeon. The other big reason is that the pay is quite low. Geriatricians are the lowest paid specialists in the province, or close to that. The shortage it's across Canada, and it's been there for a long time. It's quite a chronic shortage, and they're starting to lose the capacity to train geriatricians.
You spoke with one doctor in the area who is the only geriatrician serving the 4 counties. Help us put that into perspective.
So with Dr. Alex Peel, she serves an area, it's Grey, Bruce, Huron, and Perth counties. So when you look at that region, it is larger than Prince Edward Island. The population there is about 300,000. It's about twice the size of Prince Edward Island. And it's also got a senior population that's about a fifth, or actually more than a fifth of the overall population. So they have, on the ground, they have one geriatrician to serve that entire region. And boy, does she have a busy day, because one of the things with geriatricians is that they still make house calls to do their assessments. When they're doing an assessment, which is the beginning of the treatment, it can take like an hour and a half. So she's driving all over this region to do those types of things. Where she can't do it that way, then she will. They have a special teleconference set up for the medical community, and she uses that with the aid of a specially trained nurse who might visit someone, and then they can converse that way and perhaps speak to a patient. She also holds clinics and in different areas, again, throughout there. And then also a big part of her job is to try to establish the infrastructure to help care for our aging population. So she's involved in a lot of community committees and work along those lines.
Some people might be curious as to the sort of services a geriatrician like Dr. Peel can provide elderly patients that, say, your GP can or can't. Can you explain some of the differences there?
So one of the big things in our health system and the way that it's set up is that when you go and see the doctor, you go and see the doctor about one issue. Mm-hmm. One of the big challenges about treating older people, and it's a particular portion of older people that they call frail seniors, is that these are people that will have more than one medical issue going on at the same time. And so for instance, it might be someone who's dealing with some dementia and is dealing with some heart problems and maybe has diabetes, and they're still trying to keep them keep them in the home and deal with this. And it means that you have to spend the time to unravel kind of what's creating which kind of challenges and how to treat them, and treat them in a way that it doesn't conflict with the other treatments. So it's a very complex situation. And again, they have to look at a number of issues, whereas your family doctor, when you go in and visit, will usually look at one issue at a time.
Now, I want to pull up some stats from a report on specialized geriatric services in Ontario that came out this past March, which you cite in your article, that includes the following breakdown of seniors considered to have frail health. It starts with 3% of the 65 to 69 age group, and then pretty much doubles every 4 years to a quarter of seniors between the ages of 80 to 84, and 50% of those 85 and over. How much might these numbers differ from community to community?
Well, and that's the interesting thing. The ministry, as a rule of thumb, I'm told, uses a percentage, just roughly when you lump all that together, roughly around maybe 10% of the senior population would be classified as a frail senior. But when you go from community to community, that can change radically. One person told me that in northeastern Ontario, for instance, there are some communities where about 20% of the seniors' population would be considered frail seniors. So there's quite a range when you get right down on the ground.
Now, according to the Regional Geriatric Programs Organization, by 2029, it's estimated there are almost 1 million older adults in Ontario living with frailty. How much does that shortage of geriatricians factor into the problem of hallway healthcare, which we've heard, with this government in Ontario?
Well, geriatricians say, and there are the numbers they say to prove it. They help keep people out of hospitals. They help keep people out of long-term care. They're very much team players. So they're not just working with other doctors to treat conditions. They're also working with people in the community that might deliver special services, for instance, Meals on Wheels, that sort of thing. Mm-hmm. And they work to figure out how to keep that person safe in the home. And even if there's a difference of a couple of years, it's a considerable savings, actually, when you look at it in terms of healthcare. I think what I was told, it's about, to treat someone in the community like that, it's about $1,500 a year, compared to a long-term care bed, which is about $50,000 a year.
Obviously, it seems like the numbers make sense to have more geriatricians, but what does the province say?
Well, the province is saying that the number of geriatricians is actually increasing, which it is. No one disputes that. Mm-hmm. It's also saying that the number of geriatricians is increasing at a pace that it's kind of outpacing the increase in our frail seniors. But again, just to look back at the measure that the province uses, just that thumbnail of 10% of the population, it's very different when you get on the ground. So there's some question about that as well.
What are some of the other efforts underway to kind of help with that shortage?
Well, geriatricians themselves are turning to their peers in other areas of specialty and practice, and working on doing things like adding senior care to the educational curriculum. That's a project, for instance, that's going on at Western University, so that all medical students will have components in what they're learning that will include some education about treating seniors. In my area as well, they've established, they're working on a frail seniors strategy. And that's to basically align all the people that are working with seniors and figure out a way to share information and create more of like a one-stop shop kind of service for seniors. And that type of activity has happened elsewhere in the province. Also through family doctors, quite a few years ago, a family doctor in the Kitchener area started a memory clinic, and the idea idea just caught on like wildfire, actually. And there's now, I think, more than 100 memory clinics across the province. And those are specially trained family doctors. And they work with the people in the community and refer on to specialists as needed, or they might consult specialists. So it's a way of bringing that care more directly into the community.
All right, Mary, always interesting stories that you bring to the table. Thank you so much for joining us. That's Mary Baxter, our Ontario Hub editor from Southwestern Ontario.
Thanks, Jayanne.
The Agenda with Steve Bacon is brought to you by the Chartered Professional Accountants of Ontario, helping businesses stay on the right side of change with strategic thinking, insightful decisions, and business leadership. Are you on the right side of change? Ask an Ontario CPA.